Morphin Time! Dragon Sword! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Doug the manager. Hey, welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to explain just what exactly the Power Rangers are. Not just the Mighty Morphin, but the franchise as a whole. One that includes 20 plus teams of color-coded superheroes imported from Japan. I'll explain what the show is about and the major storylines that have occurred over 2 decades. I've also got some interesting trivia, like how a key part of the series can trace its origins directly to Marvel. So if you're a little too young or too old, this may all be new information for you, but pretty much any 90s kid has heard of the Power Rangers. For a few years in the mid-90s, they dominated pop culture. The original series helped launch the Fox Kids block of programming, spawned 3 theatrical movies, and ushered in a wave of copycat shows like Masked Rider and Big Bad Beetleborgs. By 2002, the franchise had made over $6 billion. This was mostly from the Bandai branded action figures and the other Power Rangers toys. For a while, this merch was the holy grail of toys, up there with Tickle Me Elmo and Cabbage Patch dolls. The guy who wrote Jingle All the Way, a movie about 2 dads fighting over the last Turbo Man toy on Christmas Eve, probably got the idea after trying to find a red Power Ranger for his own kids. Heck, that's probably why the show has lasted as long as it has. With its focus on creature designs, new suits, and special Zords that combine together Voltron style, Power Rangers was less of an action drama than it was a giant toy commercial.
What is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
But that doesn't make it any less interesting as a pop culture phenomenon. For one thing, the way it was produced was kind of ingenious. On a trip to Japan, a producer named Haim Saban became fascinated with a Japanese kids show called Super Sentai. He immediately saw the appeal of 5 superheroes in color-coded matching spandex suits fighting absurd-looking monsters. Eventually, he obtained the rights to Super Sentai to make an American version of the show. To save money, he didn't bother remaking the special effects scenes of the monsters destroying the city or the masked heroes fighting the creatures on the ground. He and his team would use the original footage in the American show, only rewriting and remaking scenes where the young heroes had their masks off. In between the monster brawls, Saban used American actors to film all new storylines of the heroes at their high school. Saban figured young audiences wouldn't be interested in watching the original Japanese counterparts, either dubbed or with subtitles. Now, this wasn't an original idea either. Way back in 1956, Hollywood did this by taking the 1954 Japanese film Godzilla and adding in a bunch of scenes with American actor Raymond Burr. While all the scenes of Godzilla destroying Tokyo and stepping on tanks were kept, it barely cost the studio anything to film Burr asking Japanese scientists questions like, hey, what's Godzilla up to? This process is called localization, or at least it's part of what the term can be used for. It worked for Godzilla, giving him a whole new audience in the West, and it worked for Super Sentai. Super Sentai first aired in 1975. The title originally translates to Super Squadron Series. Part of the popular special effects focused tokusatsu genre, the show featured a team of 5 20-somethings equipped with electrical battlesuits that gave them super strength and speed. In 1978, Toei Company, the company behind Super Sentai, put the show on hiatus for 2 years. This was because it had made a deal with Marvel to make an original live-action Spider-Man series. The show didn't star Peter Parker, but a new original hero named Takuya Yamashiro. Yamashiro was a motorcycle racer who finds a spaceship from planet Spider and uses his alien powers to fight the gloriously named Professor Monster.
I'm lame compared. Like, I fought a Russian guy in a rhinoceros machine.
Spider-Man also has a spaceship called the Marveler that can transform into a giant robot mech called the Leopardon. When Super Sentai came back on the air in 1979, it borrowed this idea of the superheroes using giant transforming robots when they're in a pinch. This then became a staple of the show and the wider tokusatsu genre as a whole. And it all started with Spider-Man.
Thank you, Spider-Man!
A key part of Super Sentai is that every season the show is more or less rebooted. A new team of heroes, new suits, new mechs, even new titles for the show.
Merchandising! Merchandising!
The first team that Haim Saban tried to localize was from Super Sentai's 8th season, Shoudenshi Bioman, and this was in 1985, and nobody was interested in his American pilot Bioman. Saban's luck changed in 1992 when he brought his idea to Fox Kids president Margaret Loesch. Loesch previously ran Marvel Productions and, like Saban, she saw the potential of adapting Super Sentai into an American kids show, morphing it, if you would.
I would not.
Well, okay then. This time, Saban adapted Season 16, Kyoru Sentai Zyuranger, a team of dinosaur-themed heroes. The result was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This show was a near-instant hit, launched the American version of the franchise, and established most of the traditions that the show still keeps today. So I'll go into these traditions in just a second, but first let's start with the story, which the original opening theme to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers neatly summarized.
Time to conquer Earth!
Alpha, Rita's escape. Recruit a team of teenagers with attitudes.
Also, side note, how awesome is the music here? Musician Ron Wasserman supposedly wrote the iconic Go-Go Power Rangers theme in less than 3 hours. He wrote other catchy as hell tunes for the show like White Ranger Tiger Power and the Fight theme. Wasserman seems to have had 2 goals with his music: be epic and use lots of electric guitars.
Let's go! All right, let's go!
both describe another famous tune of his, the X-Men animated series theme. Oh, wait, sorry, no, that's Whitney Houston's I'm Your Baby Tonight. This is the X-Men theme. Anyways, back to the Power Rangers. Rita Repulsa is freed from her magic jar or whatever and quickly establishes a base on the moon. Her minions include bumbling idiots Babu and Squat, and Goldar, an angry warrior who's lost his wings. There's also Finster, a scientist who could design monsters out of clay that Rita would then bring to life and send down to Earth. Rita's monsters always seem to attack only one specific fictional city in California, Angel Grove. Unfortunately for her, and fortunately for us, that is where the original team of Power Rangers just happened to be from. Zordon, an ancient wizard, was the guy who originally sealed Rita in her space dumpster. In return, she managed to trap him in a time warp, which is why we almost always see him as a giant floating head in a tube. Always by his side is Alpha 5, a loyal robot whose constant worrying would put even C-3PO to shame.
Ay, ay, ay. This is so emotional.
Together, they operate out of the command center, which looks suspiciously like the Brandeis Spartan campus building of the American Jewish University. That's because that's exactly what it is, and it's been used in several films and TV shows like The Lawnmower Man, The Twilight Zone, and Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny. It's also where the Klingons and the Federation signed their famous peace treaty in Star Trek VI. The 5 teenagers with attitudes that Alpha teleports to Zordon are Jason, Zach, Trini, Kimberly, and Billy. Alpha must have done his research because these 5 are bright, kind, model students involved with many charities and extracurricular activities. Also, they all happen to know martial arts. They also love to dress in the same color every single day, which coincidentally matches the color of their Power Ranger suits: red, black, yellow, pink, and blue. The teens get their powers from the morphing grid, accessed through their power coins and morphers. Using these morphers, they can suit up and gain enhanced powers and abilities.
Wait, Morphin Time? Did they get that from the hit action sci-fi Sony Pictures production Morbius, where Jared Leto yells "It's Morbin Time" and turns into a vampire?
No, Doug, it's actually the other way around, with the memes spoofing the Power Rangers catchphrase.
It's Morphin Time!
Also, Jared Leto never actually says it's Morbin Time.
I'm pretty sure it does. It's the most famous line from the movie.
Dougie, you're out of your element. Anyways, nearly every episode of the show follows the same format. The kids are up to something at school or Ernie's juice bar and gym. This also usually involves local bullies Bulk and Skull. Rita sends down a monster tangentially related to that plot. They're accompanied by putties, faceless goons in tight gray spandex, who the Rangers can typically beat up even without their superpowers. When they need to, they morph into their suits. Each Ranger has a dagger-like weapon that can morph into a gun. They also have a customized weapon that can combine into a power blaster, an even bigger gun. When they destroy Rita's monster with one shot from the power blaster, she throws her staff down all the way from the moon to make it gigantic.
Make my monster grow!
Going that big must have been exhausting.
I slept for 3 days straight. You have no idea.
And this is when the Rangers call in their Zords, giant mech robots in the form of prehistoric animals that each of them are associated with. Zord, apparently, is a word Saban and his team came up with because it sort of sounds like sword, which, whatever, it sounds cool, so it works. Now, the Zords are pretty formidable on their own, especially Jason's Tyrannosaur, which makes sense since he's the designated leader of the team. But usually, the Zords combine right away, Voltron style, into the Megazord, a giant tank that quickly also transforms into a humanoid warrior. The Megazord and Rita's giant monster trade a few blows before the Rangers finally take out the bad guy with a single slash of the Power Sword.
Boy, they really get straight to the point with these names of these things, huh?
Yes, I can only imagine what it was like for parents to read this shit on their kids' Christmas lists.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes?
I'm trying to find a Turboman doll.
Me too, me too.
Do you have any more in the back?
And remember, nearly all the footage involving the monsters, the Zords, Rita, and the moon are all lifted straight from the original Super Sentai show. Nearly all the scenes that are actually new are the ones featuring the teens out of their costumes. Power Rangers is built on repetition. Cut and paste storylines that use the elements that I just ran through. Even the animation of the Rangers morphing, calling on their Zords, the Zords combining, the Megazord using the Power Sword. They're all just the same shot used over and over for countless episodes. Things more or less go like this week to week at first, with very little serialization in the human side of the story. That finally changes with the 17th episode of Season 1, an epic 5-parter called Green with Evil. This is where we're introduced to Tommy Oliver, probably the most famous face of the entire Power Rangers series, played by the late, great Jason David Frank. If you were a kid in grade school at the time, this was a huge deal. I still remember everyone talking about it in the schoolyard the next day. There was a new 6th Ranger, and he was evil. Created by Rita to take out the Rangers, the new Ranger wasn't just green. He had a badass golden shield over the standard Ranger suit, and his custom weapon was a dagger that was also a flute, and when he played that certain melody, he'd call on his own gigantic mech, the Dragon Zord. The Dragon Zord was formidable and an even match for the Megazord. It was also basically a ripoff of Mechagodzilla down to the finger missiles, but who cares? It was awesome! The arc ends with Jason defeating Tommy one-on-one and breaking Rita's spell. Tommy still has his powers though and decides to use them for good, joining the Power Rangers as its newest member. The idea of a new part-time or full-time Ranger joining the team mid-season is actually one of those regular Super Sentai tropes that happens pretty much every year. Likewise, it's become a Power Rangers tradition as well. The coolest part of Tommy joining the team is what it meant for the Zords. The Dragon Zord can combine with the Mastodon, Triceratops, and Saber-Tooth Tiger Dragon Zord to become a badass battle mode hybrid. Or it can combine with the full Megazord to make the Mega Dragon Zord. Or it can combine with the Megazord and Titanus to form the Epic Ultra Zord.
Titanus?
Yes, Titanus is a gigantic Brachiosaur-shaped carrier Zord that may or may not be sentient.
That's the coolest thing ever!
Season 1 pretty much plays out with some combination of these Zords destroying Rita's various monsters. Season 2 began with a primetime 3-episode arc called The Mutiny, and this is where things get really interesting. By the time Season 1 had ended, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was already a massive money-making hit. Producers now had a bit more of a budget and realized that they needed to up the production to keep the kids hooked. They came up with Lord Zed, a totally original villain that doesn't have a basis in any Super Sentai shows. He had a badass design, a muscular Cylon-like humanoid body with stainless steel armor, tubes, and a big staff with a Z on top. Just really cheesy, fantastic stuff. All of Zed's scenes were shot as new footage. He is introduced as Rita's superior, the ultimate bad guy, at least for now. Disappointed with Rita, he sets up shop on the moon to finally take over Earth once and for all. Now, of course, he quickly has the same trouble Rita had with the Rangers and ends up sending a new monster down each week, hoping this time he'll win. Zed has some early success though. His updated putties were much stronger and nearly unbeatable. Well, at least until the Rangers realized that they'd explode if you hit the giant Z on their chests. Zed also destroyed the 5 original Dino Zords in one of the Rangers' biggest defeats. Fortunately, Zordon was able to upgrade the old Zords into powerful new Thunder Zords, which of course combined into the Thunder Megazord. This was another big deal to Rangers fans, and another headache for the parents who now had to buy all new toys. But the actual reason for the new Zords was simpler. The production had run out of original footage of the Dinozords and ran out of new monsters made by Finster. Remember, the Super Sentai series, where all these designs came from, only lasted 1 season before its annual reboot. Much of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers' 2nd season, including all the Thunder Zord footage, was sourced from a different Super Sentai series, specifically Gosei Sentai Day Ranger. That means that Season 2 was a combination of Ranger footage from Kyoryu Sentai Zoo Ranger, Zord footage from Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger, and original American footage including all of Lord Zed's scenes. These poor editors.
Thanks to modern editing techniques, we can use existing footage to complete the film without Millhouse.
We'll have to fight our way out. Are you ready?
Yes.
Since Zed shared his scenes with Rita, a new American actress had to be hired to play her in the new footage. This was worked into the story by Rita changing her appearance to seduce Zed, along with slipping him a love potion.
What sort of potion?
I want a loved one.
The love potion eventually wears off, but Zed still loves Rita anyways, and eventually the two of them get married. Also, they play Hava Nagila at the reception, so either Zed or Rita are Jewish, apparently.
Mazel tov.
Laheim. Anyways, if this combination of footage sounds confusing, that's because it is. And these later seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers became more and more awkwardly put together. Even the clip of the Dinozords updating to the Thunder Zords was used over and over, taking up a good chunk of screen time each week.
Triceratops, Unicorn, Thunder Zord power!
We never actually see the Thunder Zord interacting with any of the Rangers or any other Zoo Ranger footage. For example, anytime the Thunder Megazord fights a monster alongside the Dragon Zord, you'd never actually see the same 2 mechs in the same shot, because they were from 2 different shows. Changing Zords is one thing, but the producers did not want to change the suits. By now, the look of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had become iconic. Since the show continued to use the original Ranger suits, we never actually see the Dai Rangers on screen. Well, except one, the Kyber Ranger, better known to American audiences as the White Ranger. The White Ranger was another one of those big milestone moments for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. By the time he arrives, Tommy had lost his Green Ranger powers and was off the team. But when they needed him most, Zordon created a powerful new 6th Ranger, and Tommy was naturally given the role. The White Ranger was the epitome of cool. Because he was a Dai Ranger, he looked different and new compared to the original 5 Zoo Ranger suits. He had a talking saber and a badass Tiger Zord that could actually combine on screen with the Dai Ranger sourced Thunder Zords. Tommy was also officially promoted over Jason as captain of the Power Rangers, solidifying that the character was the ultimate Power Rangers character. Season 2 had other changes as well. Seeing just how much money the show was making, the actors who played Jason, Zach, and Trini asked for a substantial raise and increases in royalties. Considering how the show is basically built on manipulating pre-existing footage, these actors probably should have guessed what happened next. they were fired. In the story, though, these three characters moved to Geneva as ambassadors of peace. They're replaced by new students, Rocky, Adam, and Aisha, who, fortunately for everyone, seem to have the same respective favorite collars in their clothing. These three don't officially become the new Rangers for several episodes and are slowly introduced into the story. 10-year-old fans of the show may not have noticed that during this transitional period, Jason, Zach, and Trinity were never seen with their helmets off, or they were just seen from behind. These new actors also came just in time for the inevitable Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. After all, the show was such a mega hit by this point, why wouldn't Hollywood want to cash in? With a significantly bigger budget, the movie was able to use all original footage. That meant shiny new costumes, a shiny new command center with a shiny new Alpha, and shiny new Zords. The Zords were especially shiny because they employed early CGI that made them feel like you were watching an Eiffel 65 video. Now, these new Ninja Zords were based on the Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger, and the reason for the change was the same as the last time. They ran out of the original Die Ranger footage and needed something new. The movie was modestly successful, though critically reviled. Most movie critics probably hadn't actually seen the popular TV show and then didn't realize just what a mess this franchise really was. Now, what's also interesting is that when Season 3 premiered a couple months later, it ignored the canon of the movie but basically retold the same story. The Ninja Zords were reintroduced, again, though this time using the much less shiny original Kaku Ranger footage. The new villain was different, however. The movie's big bad was an ancient evil tyrant named Ivan Ooze, seen here. Nope, not him, or him. There he is. Fun fact, Ivan Ooze is played by Paul Freeman, aka Renee Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. In the show, the new villain is Rita Repulsa's brother, Rito Revolto. They must be part Italian or something. Rito is another really fun design, basically a skeleton in an army uniform. At first, he seems like an unstoppable new menace, but pretty quickly he becomes something like a bumbling sidekick to Goldar. The Rangers' new powers give them ninja abilities to help fight the Tengas. That's a cross between the Putties and the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. A new character, Ninjor, shows up as a mentor, pretty much the exact same role that Dulcia played in the movie. Fun fact, Law & Order SVU star Mariska Hargitay originally filmed scenes as Dulcia, but ended up being fired after taking Christmas and New Year's off.
That's just lazy.
Yes, it is. I will always work hard for you. Another big change this season is when the original Pink Ranger Kimberly passed the torch to Catherine, who has a similar origin story to Tommy. Like Tommy, she starts out as a double agent of Rita's. Unlike Tommy, she can also turn into a cat because her name is Cat. Get it?
That's super cute.
Yes, it is. Now, Kat eventually becomes good, joins the team, and even eventually marries Tommy and has a son with him. Soon after Kimberly leaves, Rita and Rito's father, Master Vile, shows up as yet another new big bad. Midway through Season 3, the Ninja Zords were replaced by another set of mechs, the Shogun Zords. By this point in the series, it was becoming harder and harder to incorporate the original Power Ranger suits with all the newer Super Sentai footage. Finally, the time had come to do a major reboot. Master Vile reverses time, turning the Rangers into children. Zordon calls on the Alien Rangers to help in the meantime, allowing the show's producers to use Kaku Ranger footage for this new team of Rangers. The Alien Rangers defeat Master Vile, and Billy manages to revert time back to normal. However, soon after that, the command center is completely destroyed, and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers officially came to an end. Season 4 began with a new title, Power Rangers Zero, and the Rangers finally got new costumes based on the Chorky Sentai O-Rangers. The show's new villain, the Machine Empire, also comes from O-Ranger. Instead of splicing footage of costume Zords and monsters from various different Sentai shows, this new semi-reboot made it a lot easier to localize a streamlined version of the Power Rangers. Because O-Ranger only had 5 team members and no White Ranger, Tommy became the Red Ranger, typically the color of the team leader, and Rocky switches to blue. That meant that there was no longer a place on the team for the sole remaining original Ranger, Billy. Billy stuck around the show for a bit anyways as a supporting character before eventually moving on to another planet.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Nope, he doesn't die, he marries one of the Alien Rangers. There's also a new Yellow Ranger named Tanya, and eventually a 6th Gold Ranger. The identity of the Gold Ranger is teased for a bit. Is it Billy? Is it Skull? Eventually, it's revealed to be some hunky alien, but he quickly transfers his power to the original Red Ranger, Jason. After Zeo ends, we get our second feature film, Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. Unlike the first movie, Turbo sets up and leads into Season 5 of the series, which is once again rebooted with all new Zords, costumes, and bad guys. Turbo is based on Gekisu Sentai Car Ranger and has a heavy emphasis on cars and other vehicular Zords. In Turbo, Rocky is replaced by a 12-year-old boy who, when he morphs into the Blue Ranger, becomes adult-sized Shazam style. Shazam! Eventually, the other members of the team are also replaced. It's the end of the era when Tommy, who had been on the show since nearly the beginning, retires, although he'll be back. Zordon and Alpha 5 also pack it up, being replaced by Demetria and, you're never gonna believe this, Alpha 6.
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
With Zeo and Turbo lasting only one season each, the show realized that it could get away with annual reboots just like Super Sentai. Season 6 became Power Rangers in Space, and the setting finally moves from Angel Grove to, you're not gonna believe this, space. At the end of Turbo, Zordon is captured by the Dark Scepter, who begins draining Zordon's powers. The Turbo Rangers head into space to rescue everyone's favorite floating head, getting new powers along the way. I should also note that the 4th episode of this season includes a crossover with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is something.
It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles!
Power Rangers in Space ends with a 2-part epic finale that sees the entire universe in peril. The Gold Zeo Ranger and Alien Rangers are defeated. Bulk and Skull fight to save Angel Grove, and it looks like all is lost. Zordon orders Andros, the Red Ranger, to destroy his tube, which will kill him but release a wave of pure good energy throughout the universe. The plan works, with even Rita and Lord Zed turning good, though at the cost of Zordon's life. The next season, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, is the first time the show starts right off the bat with an entirely new team of Rangers, using footage from Seiju Sentai Gingaban. While the Power Rangers in Space more or less wrapped up the 6-season saga that began with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Lost Galaxy is still a loose continuation of the story. We know that because Bulk, of all people, is still on the show, working in a cafe on a space station of all places. Bulk and Skull have come a long way from being punk bullies at Angel Grove High School. In Season 2, they dedicated themselves to discovering the true identity of the Power Rangers, before becoming junior police, private detectives, roommates with Rito and Goldar, chimpanzees, and assistants to the astronomer Professor Phenomenus. Bulk and Skull also had some of the best theme music of the franchise. Skull left the show at the end of Power Rangers in Space, with Bulk actor Paul Schreier becoming the last remaining cast member of the series that had been there since the very beginning. While occasional connections to various shows, including Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, would occur throughout the years, each season from this point on was more or less a full reboot. New cast, new setting, and of course, new Rangers and new Zords became the norm with each new season. Each season was based on different Super Sentai footage, airing about a year after its Japanese counterpart. This has continued every year since, with shows like Power Rangers Wild Force, Power Rangers Mystic Force, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, and Power Rangers Your Mom. Along the way, we've seen characters like Rita, Bulk and Skull, and Tommy return, the latter even getting powers again as the Black Dino Thunder Ranger. Tommy also appears alongside Jason and 8 other Red Rangers in the 10th anniversary special, Forever Red. For the 20th anniversary, there was an even bigger team up for Power Rangers Super Mega Force, which saw different Rangers from the previous 20 seasons team up, including Tommy Oliver as the Green Ranger. Tommy shows up again in a 25th anniversary team up in Super Ninja Steel. And by this point, it was a given that Jason David Frank was the face of the franchise. Originally only contracted for 14 episodes as the Green Ranger, his popularity with fans kept him on the show for years. Tragically though, Jason David Frank died by suicide in November 2022. Along with Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger, Frank had cameoed in the 2017 Power Rangers reboot film. That film had the highest budget yet and was going for a more mainstream audience. The cast included Stranger Things as Doc Ray Montgomery as Jason, Elizabeth Banks as Rita, and Bryan Cranston as Zordon. This wasn't actually Cranston's first appearance in the franchise though. Bryan Cranston had done voiceover work for the very first season of Power Rangers. Years before he played Walter White or Malcolm's dad, he was voicing monsters like the Snizzar.
Goodbye, Power Rangers!
The Power Rangers mythology lives on in other media as well, including video games, comics, and fan films.
I held Kimberly in my arms when she died.
The original show is still going strong too. Netflix is expected to release a season 30 Power Rangers Cosmic Fury in April. This iteration will use footage from the Uchu Sentai Kaiju Ranger. With Super Sentai in its 47th season and still rebooting every year, there's no reason to expect Power Rangers to go anywhere either. Now, while the 2017 reboot film did okay, there's already talks for yet another reboot feature. This one will supposedly take place in the 1990s, which is fitting. While the franchise has now been around for decades, for many fans, the Power Rangers will always be 90s icons, back when they were the OG Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
It's Morphin Time.
Okay, I want to know what you guys think of all this. Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.